Hello and welcome back with one more bone-chilling story. The most extraordinary prison escape ever in the history of America. Alcatraz Island is located in San Francisco Bay in the United States. It was once home to a prison that housed some of the most notorious criminals in the country, but it's probably more famous for being escape-proof. That's because between 1934 and 1963, when it operated as a prison, there were only 3 recorded escape attempts, and all of them failed. Of those 3 attempts, 2 were solo acts, but the third, and by far the most audacious, was a joint effort involving 6 prisoners. It became known as the Great Alcatraz Breakout. And even though it ended in tragedy, the story of how these men planned and executed their escape is absolutely incredible. But before we get into that, now back to the video. The men involved in the breakout were Frank Morris, John Anglin, and Clarence Anglin. They were all serving life sentences with the possibility of parole after being convicted of various crimes, including bank robbery. As you can probably guess from their last names, John and Clarence Anglin were brothers. And of the 3 masterminds behind the breakout, he was probably the most desperate to make it happen. That's because he had a wife and young son on the outside looking to start a new life. His brother, on the other hand, wasn't so keen on escaping. But in a way, he had no choice. You see, John was in a gang led by the infamous Al Capone. And when Capone decided to orchestrate a prison break, he told his lieutenants like John that if they didn't participate, they would be killed. As for Frank Morris, he was something of a legend at Alcatraz. A former safecracker, he had successfully escaped from multiple prisons before, and always managed to evade capture. So when he decided to attempt a 3rd prison break, he knew exactly what he was doing. Still, Alcatraz was a whole different beast. In addition to being an island, it was surrounded by freezing cold waters and housed some of the most dangerous criminals in the country. Guards patrolled the perimeter both during the day and night, and inmates could be shot on sight if they tried to escape. So how did the trio plan to escape? First, they spent months secretly crafting life-size dummies out of prison mattresses and life jackets to fool the guards. Then, while working in the prison laundry room, they removed a steel shutter from a ventilation shaft using hacksaw blades smuggled inside the prison. The plan was to use the dummies to distract the guards on the night of the escape, which would allow a few of the inmates to slip through the fence and into the water. From there, they would swim to a boat waiting on the other side of the bay, where they would then speed off to parts unknown. With everything in place, the breakout began. On June 11, 1962, the dummies' heads were placed around the prison yard, and then the men got into position. But almost immediately, things started going wrong. You see, one of the lookouts spotted the dummies' heads missing and raised the alarm. Soon, every guard in the prison was searching for the escapees, and the men in the yard were ordered to line up against the wall. One of the inmates who was supposed to be part of the breakout, a man named Alan West, was caught trying to climb the fence and was shot and killed by a guard. And another inmate, a man named Fred Brace, was caught hiding under a truck and beaten severely by guards. Meanwhile, the 3 masterminds behind the breakout, Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers, made it over the fence and into the water. They swam for about an hour and a half before reaching their boat. But by that time, a Coast Guard vessel had spotted them and a chase ensued. The men in the boat opened fire on the Coast Guard, forcing them to retreat. But in the chaos, Clarence Anglin disappeared overboard. The boat sped away from the prison with Frank Morris and John Anglin on board, but it was later found abandoned on an isolated stretch of beach. Despite an extensive search, neither Morris nor the Anglin brothers were ever found. But it's generally believed that they drowned while swimming from Alcatraz to the mainland. Despite its failure, the breakout was later immortalized in a Clint Eastwood movie and has become one of the most famous prison escape attempts of all time. Now you know. Hit the like button for more historical tales. Thank you for watching. Until next time with more interesting stories. Don't forget to subscribe.